Hi, everybody. This is new. This is new and stunning news for the James Bond franchise, which has been dominated by the image of Daniel Craig, but is at the center of these 7 gentlemen. Amazon MGM Studios will gain creative control of James Bond franchise. Wow. Amazon MGM Studios gains creative control of James Bond franchise. That's what it reads. What does it mean? Amazon MGM Studios announces new joint venture with Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli for James Bond franchise rights. The men of 007. Roger and then, of course, the notable one from the only Her Majesty's Secret Service movie made, Daniel Craig, Pierce Brosnan, Timothy Dalton, and of course the legendary Sean Connery. The men of 007. Now, people say, well, what happened to all of them? What about the movies with Roger Moore? And how does that impact Her Majesty's Secret Service? Or does it? What does Daniel Craig think about all of this? And what would Sean Connery say? For that matter, Timothy Dalton and Pierce Brosnan. Amazon MGM Studios, Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli today announced that they have formed a new joint venture to house the James Bond intellectual property rights. And those parties will remain co-owners of the franchise. Under the terms of this new venture, Amazon MGM Studios will gain creative control of the James Bond franchise following closing of the transaction. Since its theatrical introduction over 60 years ago, James Bond has been one of the most iconic characters in filmed entertainment, said Michael Hopkins, head of Prime Video and Amazon MGM Studios. We are grateful to the late Albert R. Broccoli and Harry Saltzman for bringing James Bond to movie theaters around the world, and to Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli for their unyielding dedication and their role in continuing the legacy of the franchise that is cherished by legions of fans worldwide. We are honored to continue this treasured heritage and look forward to ushering in the next phase of the legendary 007 for audiences around the world. With my 007 career spanning nearly 60 incredible years, I am stepping back from producing the James Bond films to focus on art and charitable projects. Therefore, Barbara and I agree it is time for our trusted partner, Amazon MGM Studios, to lead James Bond into the future, said Wilson. My life has been dedicated to maintaining and building upon the extraordinary legacy that was handed to Michael and me by our father, producer Cubby Broccoli. I have had the honor of working closely with 4 of the tremendously talented actors who played 007 and thousands of wonderful artists within the industry. With the conclusion of No Time to Die and Michael retiring from the films, I feel it is time to focus on my other projects, commented Broccoli. In 2022, Amazon acquired MGM, including a vast catalog with more than 4,000 films and 17,000 shows. Since the MGM acquisition, Amazon has held rights to distribute all the James Bond films, and as a result of the transaction, will have creative control over future productions. That was written by Amazon staff today. Wow. Let's see other reactions here. Basically the same headlines. And I wonder what this has to do with it. It says, the alleged James Bond 26 drama is so messy, it could break a franchise record. That's here. Let's see what's going on. The alleged James Bond 26 drama is so messy, it can break a franchise record, but I need to point out a silver lining. This was 13 hours ago before the news. Consider what I'm about to discuss a friendly reminder that no, James Bond will not be returning on the roster of 2025 movies. And if veteran franchise director Martin Campbell's assumptions are correct, the wait for James Bond 26 is still pretty long. In fact, if his recent remarks are any indication, we might see 007 break his personal best for longest cinematic absence since the fall of the Berlin Wall. But believe it or not, there's a glimmer of hope contained in this storm of speculation. Bond 26 may break the record for longest 007 wait, according to Martin Campbell. Speaking with Men's Journal on behalf of his new Daisy Ridley starring actioner Cleaner, talks naturally turn to whether or not the director that helped reinvent Commander Bond twice will want to take a third spin at the wheel. Putting that question on the table saw Mr. Campbell, the helmer of 1995's GoldenEye and 2006's Casino Royale, make a prediction for when we might see this 26th cinematic outing. And as you will read below, it only partially connects to the reported drama between Amazon MGM Studios and Eon Productions. I mean, is there going to be another Bond? That's the question. I mean, there's this legal thing right now. And of course, they have this problem with Amazon. It's ironic. It's sort of the same thing. God knows what's going to happen. And also the director choice will come from Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson, who are fantastic producers. I think it'll be 2 years away, 3 years away. We're way past shaken, not stirred territory here. In fact, if you allow me a puny reference to break up the mood, Martin Campbell's claims hit like a thunderbolt to the hearts of 007 fans. Should his prediction be correct, the follow-up to 2021's No Time to Die will presumably arrive in theaters in 2027 or 2028. So, on the longer end of that time frame, we'd see the record held by the delay between 1989's License to Kill and 1995's GoldenEye bested by about a year. There's Pierce Brosnan. One moment, please. Possible to share this for a second? One moment. And let's see here. Okay. Shared. Let me repeat what I just read. The supposed reasons for the holdup seem to come from two sources, the most obvious being producer Barbara Broccoli's supposed feud with her studio partner. They were referring to the feud between Eon Productions and Amazon. However, that legal thing mentioned by the Mask of Zorro Helmer, Martin Campbell, is a pretty huge hurdle to cross now, as it challenges James Bond's UK-Europe copyright. Even if the reported bad blood between Amazon, MGM, and Eon isn't an issue, this particular or potential court battle could keep that delay going. May not feel like a doorway to optimism on the subject, but as some of you may know now, I am not exactly a traditional person. James Bond will not return through streaming. One of the other huge reasons for the potential conflicts raging behind the scenes is centered around the subject of Bond 26's potential tone. Amazon MGM Studios is allegedly looking for something that is meme-friendly, which feels adjacent to another pain point. Whether or not 007 should remain a solely theatrical franchise, or if there's room for streaming projects to expand the IP. This is where Martin Campbell is more optimistic, as he reinforced the party line at Eon Productions thusly. No. I know Barbara will absolutely stick to her guns and say this is a theatrical experience. This is not going to streaming immediately. I know she'll stick to her guns. Bond is always an event picture. That's the point. A Bond film. Wow. I always love it when a new Bond film comes out. I not only agree with the remarks about the no escape director, I think he's a rare party outside the halls of Eon to have enough authority to comment. Campbell introduced the world to Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig's versions of 007, and so did with debuts that are still heralded as some of the best in the series. Understanding both what makes an interesting James Bond adventure, as well as Eon Productions' Law of the Land, Martin Campbell could very easily jump on board for Bond 26's directing duties. After reading how he's handled this question in the press, I couldn't think of a better choice to hit the ground running with whenever that green light is finally given. Wow. We're talking James Bond, folks. Big news. Martin Campbell says we won't see a Bond film. Hi, everybody. Martin Campbell says we won't see a Bond film, in his view, until 2027 or 2028. And that's from Cinema Blend. Now, let's go and check on something here. Since we have this bit of Bond news, and go back to our history, James Bond. There. And see the other news about it. Variety. James Bond shocker. Amazon MGM gains creative control of 007 franchise as producers Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson step back. Alex Ritzman. Appropriate photo. The shock announcement, which is sure to shake and indeed stir the industry, was made Thursday, today, alongside the news that longtime producers and custodians of 007, Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli, would be stepping back. As per details of the historic agreement, Amazon MGM Studios, Wilson and Broccoli have formed a new joint venture to house the James Bond intellectual property rights. The three parties will remain co-owners of the iconic franchise, but Amazon MGM will have creative control. Since his theatrical introduction over 60 years ago, James Bond has been one of the most iconic characters in film entertainment, said Michael Hopkins, head of Prime Video and Amazon MGM Studios. We are grateful to late Albert R. Broccoli, Cubby, and Harry Saltzman, for bringing James Bond to movie theaters around the world, and to Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli for their unyielding dedication and their role in continuing the legacy of the franchise that is cherished by legions of fans worldwide. We are honored to continue this treasured heritage and look forward to ushering in the next phase of the legendary 007 for audiences around the world. Added Wilson, with my 007 career spanning nearly 60 incredible years, I am stepping back from producing the James Bond films to focus on art and charitable projects. Therefore, Barbara and I agree it is time for our trusted partner, Amazon MGM Studios, to lead James Bond into the future. Broccoli commented, "My life has been dedicated to maintaining and building upon the extraordinary legacy that was handed to Michael and me by our father, producer Cubby Broccoli. I have had the honor of working closely with 4 of the tremendously talented actors who played 007 and thousands of wonderful artists within the industry. With the conclusion of No Time to Die and Michael retiring from the films, I feel it's time to focus on my other projects." You know, I find it interesting that Barbara doesn't and Michael don't have kids to pass this on to in terms of responsibility. That's interesting. Or do they? In 2022, Amazon acquired MGM, including a vast catalog with more than 4,000 films and 17,000 TV shows. Since the MGM acquisition, Amazon has held rights to distribute all of the James Bond films, and as a result of this transaction will have creative control over future productions. No Time to Die, the 25th James Bond film and Daniel Craig's final turn as 007, was released in 2021 and earned $775 million. Since then, despite endless speculation in the press, there has been no announcements regarding the timeline for production of the next film or Craig's replacement. Wow. Jump to comments. And I don't see any, unless I went right by them. Not 2 comments. And let's see. Well, what could possibly go wrong handling one of the most successful film franchises in the world to the outfit that gave us Rings of Power? Even Money says we're going to see a black James Bond in a Bond universe. Goodbye, Mr. Bond. Well, there's always a racist somewhere, isn't there? Always a racist somewhere. Psychotics with nothing better to do. Let's see what's going on in terms of the news with respect to Twitter, what's now called X. Because that's, after all, that's where I got the information from originally. One moment. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Let's see here. I've got Lionsgate. Let's just go here and type James Bond. James Bond. There. George Lazenby. George Lazenby is the man who starred in Her Majesty's Secret Service. The Other Bond. MI6. Live news and views on James Bond from the world's most visited 007 source. Let's see what they have. Well, let's see what's going on here. Shocking. The Eon era is finally officially over. This franchise has thrived for over 6 decades because of this amazing group of people. I can only hope Amazon does right by 007. James Bond will return, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't leery. Yep. That'd be Broccoli, Sean Connery, and Ian Friendly. With George Lazenby. With Roger Moore. With Timothy Dalton. And then, of course, Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli with Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig on the improvised bomb movement in Skyfall. Okay, got you there. James Bond shocker. Amazon will officially gain control of the James Bond franchise in a new joint venture deal. Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli remain co-owners of Bond, but are stepping back to focus on other projects. James Bond shocker. Yep. And here we are. Zenny Report News website. That's us. Barbara Broccoli, Michael G. Wilson to share James Bond 007 franchise with Amazon MGM Studios. Stunning news. Let's give that a thumbs up and an advancement like so. Boom. Longtime James Bond producers Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli are stepping back from the creative process and handing over control of the beloved franchise to Amazon MGM Studios. As part of the arrangement, Amazon and the producers have formed a new venture to house the James Bond intellectual property rights, and those parties will remain co-owners of the franchise. Under the terms of the new venture, Amazon MGM Studios will gain creative control of the James Bond franchise following closing of the transaction. More details here. Wow. The fact that Amazon is taking creative control of the Bond franchise doesn't reassure me at all. Babs and Michael were the last guardians of the Bond legacy. With them out, who knows how 007 will evolve. Yes, completely agree. It was a good run. Bond films are about to go downhill under Amazon. Let's hope not, but it's hard to disagree with that point of view. It really is. Amazon will ruin James Bond. This is the end, my friend. Amazon is about to bite more than it can chew. Well, that's the end of Bond. Yep. Unless maybe they get Henry Cavill. Maybe there's a silver lining. Maybe there is a hope. What do you all think? You know? I'm going on and on about this. About 23 minutes. Share your views, folks. What do you think of this news? Is this truly the end of James Bond? I certainly hope not. What do you think of this news? Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube and bookmark ZennyReport.com and also OscarsMovieNews.com. Thanks.